experiencing technical difficulties.
I shoot the lights out high till it's bright out. Oh, just another lonely night. Are you willing to sacrifice your life?
The concept of having vampires in anime is nothing new. However, what you do with the concept is what can make a story impressive or downright awful. We've had action-packed, gore-infested series like Hellsing Ultimate, which was able to tell a story, albeit a very corny and stupid one, that captured my attention immediately. And then we have shows like Vampire Knight. Seriously, I paid $30 for both seasons of this series, and even though that is one heck of a deal compared to other series of the same length, I highly suggest that you don't make the same mistake I did. While I will leave those reviews for another time, today's show is very similar to the first series I talked about in terms of beginning concepts. However, does today's show stand on the same level as Hellsing Ultimate? Well, there's only one way to find out. What's up guys, it's Kent from Spartan Media Reviews, here to review the anime Blood Plus. Does this show deserve a watch? Let's find out. Blood Plus, in terms of ideas, combines militaristic elements along with aristocratic vampire-like creatures in a story of twisted fates. Our story follows Saya, a high school girl with a mysterious past. One day after forgetting her track shoes at school, Saya runs back to the school only to come face to face with a monster known as a chiropteran. We come to find out that Saya is the only one who can defeat these creatures, and her life finally starts to change. The story then continues onwards, following Saya as well as her family and the organization she works with, Red Shield, as they continue to find out the mysteries behind these creatures and who is creating them in the first place. Blood Plus is a story that I can definitely get behind. The introduction to the story's concepts hit hard right from the beginning and continues to stay suspenseful throughout most of the show. The story's atmosphere is also well put together, keeping the viewer on edge for each episode. When the story starts to branch out is where I have mixed opinions on the show. I really love the military aspect of the story and the mystery surrounding the chiropterans. However, when they blended the main villain into the story along with the aristocratic feuds between characters, it felt too much like a Shakespearean Vampire Knight compared to the action elements that most of the series contains. Even though Hellsing Ultimate's story is stupid, it never changed its focus on what it was good at, with that being action, gore, and tons of strong language. Blood Plus thought they needed to switch some things up in order to keep the story interesting, but I found this aspect to be the worst part of the show. These aspects aren't bad per se, rather they feel like they should be part of another story. I find the pacing of this show to be very interesting. Normally I find shows that are slowly paced to be very weak when it comes to structure and keeping the viewer on edge if the series calls for it. I've seen a lot of people say that the story is too slowly paced, having some episodes where barely anything happens. While I am usually inclined to agree with these statements, Blood Plus was different for me. I would compare the series pacing to that of Casher and Sins or Technolize. Both of these series progress their elements slowly, but the build-up and progression are still there. Blood Plus also keeps the drama and suspense alive even though it is paced at such a slow speed. Overall, while I do wish that Blood Plus kept its focus on its beginning points, the story was still nicely executed in suspense and overall atmosphere. Blood Plus has a mixed bag of characters when it comes to development, with the majority being underdeveloped. Even though I really liked watching our characters progress through the story, to say that the majority of the characters developed would be false. Both Saya and Kai progress thoroughly as the series advances. However, the rest of the cast were either okay or underdeveloped. Something important happens, and while it affects a majority of our characters, only a select few really transform from it, much like the characters in series like Attack on Titan and Akame ga Kill. Haji and Riku are the two characters that come to mind immediately when it comes to being underdeveloped. We see them plenty of times throughout the show, however they stay the same the entire time in terms of progressing as a character. Haji continues to fight alongside Saya, never opening up in terms of emotion or advancing his robot-like persona, and Riku is the little brother style of character that helps advance Saya and Kai, while he stays just as bland as before. The villains were also a mixed bag when it comes to development. They stay mysterious and shrouded in shadow throughout most of the show, but never truly develop at all. I also really hated our main villain in terms of personality, and I'm not saying that as a positive to their overall motives. The reasoning behind their actions was so pointless it seemed like they only did it just because. I want to talk about Kai more, as I found him to be the best character in the show. Sure, he may come off off as the annoying character that wants to protect his sister at first, even though he's unable to do so, but he soon becomes the most thought out character in the series. As major events happen throughout the show, Kai actually has genuine reactions to those moments. He seemed like the most realistic character in the show, and that's saying a lot considering Blood Plus is about mutant vampires hellbent on destroying the human race. Overall, Blood Plus is a genuinely likable cast, but fails at developing a majority of its supporting characters. Blood Plus has its good and bad moments when it comes to its animation. At points, the animation looks great, especially during the fighting sequences. However, at other times, the animation takes a huge nosedive into the ground. While the majority of Blood Plus is hand-drawn, there is still plenty of CG throughout the show. Considering the show aired from 2006 to 2007, CG in anime at that particular time was still not the greatest. However, I will say that Production IG blended both of these elements really well. While at times you can tell the difference between the two styles of animation, there are other points during the series where I had a hard time distinguishing between CG and hand-drawn animation. I have to say I was very impressed with that aspect, especially for the time it was produced. The definite highlight in the animation came from its character designs. Our main cast looks solid, but I personally like the diversity of the important chiropterans the most. Each important chiropteran is designed differently depending on their strengths and weaknesses. Some may have wings, while others may have the ability to transform their bodies. The opening animations were also very solid throughout. Opening 2 specifically comes to my mind thanks to its symbolic nature. While the other openings are more action heavy compared to anything else, the second opening delves deep into the transformation of our main characters, giving an added perspective to the story as well. The endings were much more simplistic, but were still animated nicely. Blood Plus's musical score was only average in my opinion, having only a few tracks stand out because of their significance to the story. While the tracks used during the fighting sequences kept the tension high, they are pretty forgettable once they are finished. The moments where Blood Plus shines when it comes to sound are in its openings and voice acting. The openings were all enjoyable in my opinion, giving the show some more added flair to not just the overall product, but to the animation provided alongside it as well. I find that to be very interesting, as I hated every single ending track used in the show. To me, they were too slow and boring, but this is an entirely subjective idea, so you may find the tracks to be worth your time. When it comes to the voice acting, the English dub was phenomenal. The idea of Crispin Freeman voicing so many significant characters in a show sounds like a terrible idea, as the diversity of voices may become minuscule. However, Crispin Freeman did a fantastic job bringing a different personality to all his characters. As Haji, Freeman was cool and calm, but if another character was cunning and from a different country, he was able to make that known very easily. The rest of the cast did a phenomenal job as well, with standout performances from Kerry Walgren and Ben Diskin. Overall, while the majority of the soundtrack is forgettable, Blood Plus's positives certainly outweigh its negatives. Now, with everything that I have said, do I recommend watching Blood Plus? Yes. While it may seem like an unfair comparison to compare Blood Plus to Hellsing Ultimate before watching the show, the fact that it almost held up to the same level as Hellsing Ultimate was an impressive feat. While Blood Plus suffers from a less impressive story, it makes up for it with its cast of characters. Seeing our characters start to branch out from each other as the series advances gives added storylines and different perspectives to the show. The animation was a definite surprise, especially for its time, and while I found the soundtrack to be average, the dub was of very high quality. Overall, Blood Plus is a show that is worth your time. Spartan Media Reviews gives Blood Plus a final score of 7 out of 10 and a good recommendation. If you are interested in Blood Plus, you can check out the series for free over on Crackle. Now, what are your thoughts on Blood Plus? Comment below. If you enjoyed this review, hit that like button, I would really appreciate it. You can also subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet, I would really appreciate that as well. Follow me on Twitter and Hummingbird to keep up to date with the current things that I am doing, and with all that said, I will catch you guys in my next review. Thank you for watching.